in the airport. So now we have the presentation from the trip that went to Shanghai and Hangzhou. So the presenters are Alicius Ojeda from Mexico and Ko Tong-yi from who's doing his PhD in Lingnan University. And this time we are also trying to make sure that we have a mix of generations. So we welcome and we try to see how the young people, how the younger generation would see the trip.
Hello. Well, we are the trip who went to eastern region of China. Who we are all these people from Brazil, people from Australia, from Hong Kong, from China, from Mexico, from Cuba. We had all different kinds of nationalities, Ecuador, Japan. Where we went? We went to Shanghai, Jiangsu province, Huaxi village, Xin'an province, Anji, Hanshu, and a small village called Peach Blossom Village. Where is this? Here. Because it's easier if you see it in the map. We're in the east coast. What we were looking for. We were looking for examples of sustainability and development, ecological practices, and social justice. What we did and what we found.
Yes, on the first day we went to Shanghai, which I think aspires to be the financial center of the world. So we paid a visit to a fund management company, and they gave us quite sound financial advice. But the point is, we were quite interested to know really how this is consistent with sustainable development. Many of us felt that the current crisis in the world is due to exactly the globalization of finance. But we were, I guess, quite surprised that the people we spoke to felt very positive about the ongoing financialization in China. So we were looking for, a certain, at least a consciousness about issues of sustainability, and most of us were struck by, that lack of consciousness. On the other hand, there was pride in the fact that China's financial sector seems to be moving towards greater liberalization. After that, we went to, yes, of course, the Huaxi village. Many of you would have read about this village. I guess its claim to fame is this 328-meter tower that was built, and it was just recently opened. Again, 328-meter tower and sustainability. Most of us, in fact all of us, thought that this kind of violated any kind of logic of a village. This was clearly, they were moving towards the city in terms of their thinking. But yet, it was something that they displayed with great pride. That, by the way, is 328-meter tower matches the tallest building in Beijing. And of course, the slogan that they committed is to get rich together. Once again, we certainly saw the developmental logic in this, but not quite the sustainability aspect of it. And so, when we were discussing this, many of us pointed out the huge ecological footprint, something like that leaves behind. And again, we think it's a misnomer to be calling this a village.
After that, we went to another place, less developed town that was called Anji. That was kind of bamboo paradise. because it was a forest full of bamboo. And we went to visit these different towns that were more down to earth in a way. Then we visited a family-run eco-lodge, that they had these families that created hostels for people, and that way the family will have an income and the people can go and experience with them. And there we found something different than in the other place. We found clean water, something that in Shanghai we didn't see so much. We saw that, unlike in Huaxi, that they imported 80% of what they consumed, here most of the food we ate was produced there. So that was very important to us. And also there were family-run businesses. So the families had something to live on, and they were able to stay in their villages and weren't so forced to migrate. There was this college student who went to college and came back to the town, and that's something that doesn't happen so often. We're going to show you pictures after a while. Hangzhou City. Okay. We did different things. We started with the Arts and Craft Museum. That was a good change because we got to see the things that the people did there, and they had this pavilion where they had the craftsmen doing things, so we were able to see it directly. After that, we went to a meeting with academics and politicians where they talked about different policies that the city had. One of this was participative democracy, that people can vote for ideas and they can give their opinion for what they're doing and what they want to create. Although then, after that, we went to see the Hangzhou Grassroots House of Migrant Workers. And then we wonder, well, do these people participate in the democracy or they don't because they're not so considered as citizens? So this was a type of contradictions, and we saw a lot of them during the trip. And after that, in the migrant workers, we also see these families that were staying apart, because with the migrants, the kids were left behind and the families went to the city. So this was also a situation that we were very worried about. And also it raised a concern about the agrarian policies and the different policies the government has on the countryside. So why do these people have to migrate? This was also very interesting. And also this effort with the Crafts Museum in the Hangzhou city to preserve their identity and their cultural identity, but then it was also a contradiction with the migrants because they were having to leave behind their identity. So this was Hangzhou city. And then was Peach Blossom Village.
Yes, on the final day we went, was it the second last day, we went to a property development called Peach Blossom Village. What happened here was that this property development company had gone into this area and essentially built essentially an estate of new Western style homes, and they tried to, of course, emphasize the natural environment as a feature of this development, and so they considered this a form of sustainable development. Now, all of us were obviously quite uncomfortable, primarily because this was really a disruption and an intrusion into the local ecology. Yet again, the commitment to development is so strong. There seemed to be some difficulty recognizing the contradictions here. What was unique about this, though, was the developers or the owners of this development company was originally from this village, and he felt that it was a kind of obligation to put money back into the village from which he came. He had long ago migrated into the cities and accumulated substantial wealth, and he was bringing back the money back to the village. So, in a sense, I mean, it's full of contradictions, but there is still this sense of returning something back to the community. So again, contradictions, but then there are some very positive aspects.
So we're going to show you some pictures now of this.
So we'll start with Shanghai.
We didn't think about selecting specific pictures because that way you get a feel of the whole trip, and the different situations. Like from start, the scholars who introduced us to Shanghai, Arabus, it was meetings and meetings, and you can see how excited we were. This was in the hotel, our first meetings, because I'm sure you also had all kinds of meetings.
This is what happens when you don't have time to edit out the bad stuff.
So you get everything.
This was
At the big TV tower that underneath is the museum that we went, the history museum.
So some sightseeing, obviously.
You get the bond, and here is interesting because most buildings look very European. They will look hard to imagine. The museum, the history museum.
So you can see how thoroughly modern Shanghai is. And this was our visit to our financial advisors. Both of these ladies had the opportunity to migrate. In fact, both of them had, the older lady was vice president of the, yes, she had migrated to Toronto in the late 80s, but she came back and said, I'm so proud to be part of this growing industry. And same with the younger lady, the colleague, I think, studied in the United States and came back to China. And they sense that there are many more opportunities here. So it's a clear sign of the
And there's tourism. This was
okay.
So this was just a general idea of every place we went to, and all the things possible.
Well, yes, I regret we don't have much time to show you the rest of the pictures, but a conclusion, well, you can call it a conclusion, is that we left with great confusion about the state of China. I mean, it's full of contradictions. It seems to recognize what is important, issues of sustainability. Yet perhaps that consciousness is not really embedded. So the presentations, they do talk about sustainability, but we haven't quite seen the practices. But the commitment to development is certainly there, and we're somewhat concerned about where this will lead. So I'm sure most of you felt the same. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We are now going to have the presentation from the field trip team that went to central China, that is Renmin, Hebei, and Beijing. We decided to do it in a collective way, and well, you'll see. And we would like to especially thank Yan Xiaohui and Carol Lam for their commitment and their energy, which is simply remarkable. I think over the whole of last week, when we were on the whole field trip, on average they slept 2 hours per day, per night. In the first 3 days we were working on this brochure. We didn't have anything, so they were working on the bus, and then in the last few days on this presentation. So the highlights is Nanjia village, the population 3,000, the total net village net income 120 million yuan. But then they spent 25 million yuan on social benefits. There's very little social polarization. There's free education, healthcare, housing, and amenities for all.
It's possible to organize the social relations, the production relations in other way. Another way where the human necessity is the main way of organizing the society. Not the profits.
Angie was like an oasis in I'm just wondering the impact to the larger community, especially with